have a quorum present, and we will be represented on this day after Labor Day by one of our city workforce top employees. Curtis Irwin will come forward and lead us in the pledge. What did I ask you? Come on up front.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
If you can, please remain standing for the invocation. Creator God, source of all wisdom and purpose, and the blessing of all who labor, give to all people, especially this council and all who are employed by the city of Bastrop and our Economic Development Corporation, a spirit in their jobs that enhances human dignity and bonds us one to another. Give us pride in our work, a fair return for our labors, and joy in knowing that our service to others reflects your values of love and respect. And as we continue in a mode of prayer, please remain standing and give your attention to a prayerful video.
This community will stand behind them, and Lord, throughout the nation, that those will step out and take a place and say, no more coming against our office. We have respect for them, every one of them, and what they do.
Today, we stood in remembrance of a deputy that was killed in the line of duty a week ago in Harris County. As a show of support and respect, the Bastrop Police Department placed a display of police vehicles, fire vehicles, and our personnel just to show our solidarity with that agency in remembrance of the deputy whose life was taken from him. It wasn't given, it was taken from him. I'm Officer Kenneth Mack, Bastrop Police Department. I'm a patrolman here with this department. I'd like to speak today just in remembrance of Deputy Goldberg of Harris County and law enforcement in general. First of all, we ask that everyone keep Deputy Goldberg's family in their prayers because he was murdered in a very senseless manner. But we're asking for support for the law enforcement community all over the state and all over the nation, but especially here in our home community of Bastrop. I would ask that despite all that's going on, that people try to maintain a sense of fairness. Don't be so quick to rush to judgment. Let's wait until we have enough facts to form an informed opinion. We're not asking for any special favors. Right is right, wrong is wrong. We are here to try to do right. Just remember, we are human. We will make mistakes, but those mistakes will be just that and not misconduct. I would like everyone to keep in mind the governor's appeal to stand with law enforcement in support of us because we perform a very necessary social function. We ask that all of your prayers and your thoughts be directed towards helping that family cope with what I'm sure is a very devastating loss.
In the spirit of the work that we all do for the benefit of others. Amen. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think that was a very touching video and very appropriate for what's going on in our country today. Finally, that is the first production of the Bastrop
Joe Albers, board member for the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for taking time. I won't take up too much of your time. As we discussed in June, we are looking for an extension of the land that was deeded in Bob Bryant Park, 1 acre of land that was deeded to the Boys and Girls Club, and we are respectfully requesting a 5-year extension of the original deadline, which is the end of this year. We are looking currently at a plan for a 3,000 square foot Boys and Girls Club on the land. We have some drawings here that one of our club parents graciously donated his time and talent as a draftsman to come up with some drawings for a potential club, what it would look like. And we have an estimated budget because we have a builder on our board who would donate some of his time and talent. We also believe that we could get some donations from other suppliers. So we're looking at a budget of approximately $300,000 to build the building. And before we build it, we would look at first-year operations of approximately $100,000. So we'd be looking at a campaign target of $400,000 before we build the building. That's why we wanted to have a 5-year extension, just to make sure that we have enough time for a capital campaign. We feel that we have a very good opportunity to raise that money, looking at some potential funding sources. There's a development grant from USDA. We've applied for a grant from Blue Bond Electric. The matching grant from Meadows Foundation, Lowe's Charitable Foundation, they typically donate about $50,000 to a Boys and Girls Club of their choice. The Impact Austin grant, and then we would do a capital campaign, and we currently have a building fund CD of $30,000 in the bank. So we feel we have a very good opportunity to raise the money that's needed to build this building. Assuming that we can get an extension of the deadline that we're requesting, we would kick off our capital campaign on October 17th, which is our next fundraiser. We're doing a ladies' luncheon and fashion show at the Hyatt. And we would want to announce to the community that we are doing a capital campaign to raise the funds. We anticipate that we would begin the construction phase by March of 2017 at the latest. In between then, we would do soil samples and other things that would be needed for preparing the land. And then an open house at the club by December of 2018 at the very latest. So within the 5-year window, but we would like to request a 5-year window just in case there are any kind of hiccups on the way. This is something that we believe we could do by ourselves as the Boys and Girls Club. But it's also been suggested to us that possibly we could be an even greater asset to the community if we were to partner, and to possibly build a club in addition to a rec center, and possibly even the emergency shelter on that same land, the Bob Bryant Park land. So we also have a drawing here of what that could potentially look like, including a gym and the club facilities and shared facilities that would be needed for the shelters, such as locker rooms and bathrooms, kitchen and laundry facilities. So that's just an option that we could look at if we were to partner. By ourselves, as I said, we could do a small club building. But in partnership, working together, we could possibly do something larger. That would be at the discretion of the city if they wanted to do so. So that's basically all we have right now. And we are respectfully requesting a 5-year extension on the deadline. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
I did have one question, I'm sorry to hesitate. On the land that's, the 1 acre tract?
Yes.
Okay. I saw the drawing and I was trying to go between the screen and here. Is there adequate space for the parking and all those things? Have you looked into that at all, or?
Yes, we do feel there's adequate space.
Okay. So the clubhouse, there's space for that, you said maybe to add something else, like a,
We would add a gymnasium.
okay. Okay. So even with those expansions, there's still room on that acre?
With the expansions, it would be just barely enough room on 1 acre. With the smaller club, it would be plenty of room for the club and the parking and the space around it. If we were to do a larger facility with a gymnasium, it would take up much of that 1 acre.
Okay, so I'm assuming you talked to planning, to our planning department, would be issuing the permits and things to get that information, or is it just something that you all figured out by just the size of the space?
Just by the size of the space at this time, we did receive some free services from a draftsman and from a builder, and we're just right now doing preliminary discussions with them. We can't really spend a lot of money on bringing in architects yet until we know that we're going to get the extension deadline.
No, I'm just, okay, just, you know, wondering, like I
Yeah,
said.
it's a good question. We do feel that there's enough space.
What I was trying to suggest was that you basically check with the planning department to see what the city rules and guidelines are for buildings, because there's, according to the square footage, the number of parking spaces and all of that, not the side, the setbacks and all of that are all dictated by zoning and everything, so, or by planning and zoning, so, the planning department, so you might look into that.
That's good to know, and if, according to the deed for the land that we have, anything that we would build would be subject to the approval of the city, and all the plans would have to fit into the look and feel of the park, and everything would have to be approved before we would even begin the process. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Melissa is here, so you know, I think if you have questions about that, in the very back, she can put you in the right direction for that.
Just a couple follow-up. During your presentation, you mentioned that you're going to be filing for a number of grants. How soon would you know of those grants you applied for that you would be funded?
There's a different cycle for each one of those grants. The Blue Bonnet Electric, I believe it's October of this year when they decide. The Impact Austin grant is in January when the application is filed, and then they inform next June. The USDA development grant, I think, is the end of this year when we could apply for that. There's various different phases for those grants.
And as I'm sure you know, those grants are very competitive.
They are, yes.
And do you have a contingency plan if those don't come through?
We would need to increase our capital campaign target,
Okay.
which is why we want to have some extra time in there for a longer capital campaign if needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I want to say on behalf of Ms. Johnson, who is chairperson of the Bastrop Barsha Public Places in our August 10th meeting. She asked me to put this on the agenda because we have another award-winning transformer. They're looking beautiful throughout the community, so my thanks to you and the board and all the hard work that you put in this project, and to the winner.
Before I present that, I wanted to share with you guys, this is Southwest Art Magazine. It's one of the premier magazines in the country for art collectors and art lovers. And Bastrop Art and Public Places does have an ad in it, so you're getting national publicity. This was our second transformer call, and Elizabeth Sullivan, who is from Elkin, had transformer designs accepted on both calls, and we put out on through our website a call for the People's Choice Award, and we had several hundred votes on that. We might have had more than city council elections, I don't know. And, but we had several hundred votes, and Elizabeth Sullivan won, so it is my great pleasure to congratulate you and give you this check for $1,000.
Under citizens' comment, Dorothy Charles.
continue to keep Bastrop beautiful. The Arts Guild does it in a very creative way. We try to do it in a very clean way. Last fall, as you know, the city and Keep Bastrop County Beautiful and to clean up, that was citywide, and we collected trash everywhere. Well, with the new waste vendor that you now have, recycling has become a major focus. And thanks to Councilwoman Kelly Gilliland and Kay Garcia, they decided or helped all of us to understand that this would be an excellent time to educate everyone in the community about recycling. So this fall event is called Team Up to Clean Up, but it's actually a recycling challenge. And in some ways it will be a little easier than getting out on a cold November day to pick up trash.
That was so much fun.
It was so much fun. We've got great pictures if you'd like to see our slide presentation, but I thought you had other things on your agenda tonight. It's the same format as people, companies, organizations forming a team, and that team is to gather recyclables for a particular designated week. So the first week, which will be October 19th through the 24th, people would take their recyclables to the Department of Public Works during normal work hours and let the staff know that they were there with their recycling material. And since the first week is metal, that will be weighed. And each team will get credit for what they bring in. The second week, October 26th through the 31st, is plastics. That's any household plastics 1 through 7. Plastics, as you know, can fill up a semi-truck, and you're not going to have much weight to it. So with the consultation of Trey Joe and Steve Shannon and Carrie Getter, it was determined that volume would be the way that we determined who had the most plastics. And then the final week is paper and cardboard. What will then happen is that will be tallied, and at your city council meeting on November 10th, the sponsors, who are currently Alconis and Blue Bonnet, will present checks to the winning teams. There will be an overall winner who will receive $1,000, and then there will be first place and second place in each of the categories. So in other words, we'll have 6 winners in the categories. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. This will be up on our website tomorrow. Colin has already contacted us to help put together a video on demonstrating how recyclables might be in your kitchen. So we're working on that right now.
Great.
So Mike, you're right, he's full of ideas. Any questions?
I was supposed to, before you spoke, I think since Kelly's not here, I was supposed to read something. May I read something and then
You sure
stand there in case someone has a question? Last year's Team Up to Clean Up event was so successful that we decided to do it again, but this year with a twist. In order to highlight the city's new focus on recycling, this year's Team Up to Clean Up event is a recycling challenge beginning October 19th. For the following 3 weeks, we will have the recycling competitions for paper, plastic, and metal. Each week, the team that brings the most recycling of that week's item to the public works yard will qualify to win big cash prizes. I'd like to turn this over to our partner, Keith Bastrop, beautiful, to answer any questions about the details of this exciting competition. I think I just repeated everything you said.
Well,
Okay.
it doesn't hurt, does it?
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, look forward to seeing you.
We say thanks to Kelly and Kay for spearheading this and for our great staff for making it happen. Do we have any update on the comprehensive plan from Doc or Kay?
Open house.
Yeah, we have, as far as the steering committee, probably not much, but we've had a wonderful open house, and the turnout was so much more than anyone ever thought it would be. People seem to be really interested about the future of their city, so that is really encouraging. Mike, did you?
Yeah, no, I just was really amazed that we had right at 100 people. To get that many people for a community our size and stay here as long as they did was very positive. And I also think part of that was due to the consultants with the mapping and materials that they brought for an interactive process so that people could express their views and thoughts regarding the future of Bastrop.
And also, oh, now I forgot.
Anything?
No, I was just going to say, it was a very good turnout, and it wasn't necessarily just because of the, the raisin cookies or anything like that that I had some people for the water or anything, but it
It
was
was still snowing though.
it was a very good turnout. The interaction between the public I thought was very good, and the fact that they actually had iPads so that you could do the survey. A lot of people went online, self-included, because I had not. So I got a chance to do the survey that night, and I think it was encouraging for some people to go ahead and take the survey and get it done. So I'm feeling good about it. I'm looking forward to our next planning meeting, our next committee meeting, and moving forward with it.
I'd just like to say, I think that I think September 15th is the last day for the,
Yes, September
for the survey, and we have loads, we have well over 1,000.
Yeah, well over 1,000.
So I encourage everybody to please fill out that survey. It's on the cityofbastrop.org and the front page of the website.
Yeah, scroll it right across.
Yeah.
And it's also available in the paper format in case you don't want to go online. It's available, I think, here at the library.
Thank you all. Thank you for your service on that
Believe
committee.
it, I'll have my city manager's report next time. I believe there'll be a steering committee sometime in October.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to item D1 now. Consideration, discussion, review, and possible action regarding a discussion with the city manager on controlling the length of city council meetings. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I did spend some time in between getting, well, just a few other things prepared, but I have found what I consider procedures for council regarding council meetings. And I'm reformatting it and putting it in a draft. And I think once you read that, we can have a discussion, but if we can get close to approving a procedural process of how we work through the agenda, I think it will considerably cut down the time. And I'll try to have that for you at the next meeting. And it talks about a broad range of issues and how we handle them and things of that nature.
Discussion, it's listed as discussion. Any comments for other council members or Mike?
Last time Gary came forward with a good idea, I thought, and that was that all of the items were brought by the city manager.
And that's in both of the policies that I found. Once the mayor brings an item up, then it is turned over to the city manager, and it's at my discretion whether I want to brief the council or ask a staff member to brief the council.
I think that will maybe help. We'll see. Thanks for bringing that up, Gary.
And I'll be much prepared to give you my recommendations very quickly and upfront.
Good.
Well, I'll just say while we're discussing, Mike, that it doesn't make sense to me that if a council member raises an issue that they want to bring up, that we shouldn't at least let that person that brought it up have a first shot at it, let you respond, and then let the council talk. I mean, it would seem to be that would be a little more logical than, I mean, if somebody has an idea that they want to express that's not, may not bear as much on staff as anything else. So I'm wondering if there's not a twofold thing there that we look at.
Well, as I recall, it goes through the council process and then turn to me. The council may have some discussion or directions to me ample opportunity for the council at any point during an item to chime in, but there's a process and procedure which do that. And most importantly, both policies have said, if a council member is talking, do not interrupt the council member until they're finished.
Any other comments for Mike or for the other council members? Okay, well, I wanted to do that first because I thought it might have some bearing on tonight's meeting, but we'll deal with it next meeting probably, Mike, or?
I hope so.
Okay.
Trying to get it done.
Okay, so we will now return to the numerical order, alphabetical and numerical order. We have a consent agenda that includes 3 items. Does anybody want to pull any of those from the consent agenda? Item A2 is second reading on an ordinance amending Chapter 15, Article 15.01, cemeteries in the Bastrop Code of Ordinances, and Appendix A, fee schedule, Article A 15.01, Fairview Cemetery, to reflect an increase in fees for the purchase of cemetery plots, providing a severance clause and providing an effective date as recommended by the City Advisory Board. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Did you get A3?
Second.
Sir?
Did you do A3?
Do I need to read that one as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
I had to read A2.
That's right, I'm sorry.
And I think a motion by Mr. Del Rosa and second by Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
I would just like to comment on A3. This is the third call for a transformer project. I did put it on the consent agenda because you previously have approved the guidelines. But I want to thank the Bastrop Arts and Public Places for doing another transformer project because it really is catching on here in town.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor, there's one thing I want to point out on item 81, regular meeting of August 25th.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The regular meeting of August 25th should have been removed. They will be on.
Have item A1. Item A, we're only voting on item A2 and item A3.
Okay.
Is that okay with your motion, Will? Doc? Sure. Okay, would you please call the roll on A2 and A3?
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally.
Yes.
Councilmember Shipp.
Yes.
Thank you all. Item B1 is a public hearing. Sorry.
Do you want to do A1 just to approve the minutes?
What you didn't want, you want it off the agenda?
She just asked for the 25th of August meeting full.
Right. The August 25th.
So you want to deal with it separately or just not at all?
No, the August 25th will be brought back at the next meeting.
Okay. That's what I thought. Item B1 is public hearing. Conduct a second public.
Still, Mr. Mayor, sorry. I think she wanted to vote on everything but the August 25th.
There are 2 meetings on item A1, Mayor, and she's suggesting we
You don't want to pull A1, only part of A1.
Right, A1.
Well, am I permitted to go back and say I made a mistake and start over? All right, let's call null and void on that last vote, and if anybody is sure they understand it, please make a motion.
I move to approve minutes of August 18th, 2015.
I'll second that.
Well, let me offset from what I said.
That would just
A
be
separate motion, that's even better, okay. Let's call the roll on that.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally.
Yes.
Councilmember Shipp.
Yes.
2 votes later, the mayor understands what's happening. Item B1, public hearing. Conduct a second public hearing to receive citizen input on a request to annex 16.21 acre tract situated on the town tract of Bastrop, Abstract 11 in Bastrop County, Texas, being a portion of a 90.91 Ely tract located on the northwest corner of the railroad tracks. Mike.
Yes, this is item B1. This is the second public hearing as required by the local government code. And this is a voluntary request to be annexed into the city. On page 26, shows the hatched area that is being brought into the city. They're squaring their property out and wants the city limits to match with their tract. And one of the areas at our January retreat that you thought would be a good potential for some redevelopment. We'll keep you posted as we continue to work with the developer, but I think this is the first step, and I think whenever we can square up our city limits, that's an improvement, so recommend approval.
Mayor, could I ask one question?
Yes, of course. Well, this is just a public hearing, right, so,
Go ahead, don't worry about it.
anybody in the audience want to speak on this? I need to get you to fill out one of the forms.
Certainly, David Singleton.
I need to get you to fill out the form.
Before?
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, while you're doing it, this ties in with the other 90 acres of that property, from there to the Carter Street. This ties in there, okay.
I'll take it. Mr. Singleton.
Yes.
David Singleton, please speak.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, David Singleton, the applicant in this annexation request. And as the city manager suggested, this is squaring up property boundaries. So when the original annexation was done, it was done to the center line of the creek. So if you look at the exhibit, this picks up the tract on the other side of the creek that's under common ownership. That brings into the city all the land that we currently own. And consistent with your comment, we are in the process of preparing the preliminary plat for this tract that you should see in the next 30 days. So be glad to answer any other questions you may have.
I just like to comment, sir, I personally appreciate your interest in our city, the interest in this tract, and I look forward to you submitting your preliminary plat and however we can be assistance to something.
Well, thanks, your staff's been fantastic through the process, and we look forward to it as well. We didn't know this a long time. This is our first one in Bastrop. This will be a unique tract for those of you familiar with the property. About 50% of the property, due to its proximity to the creek and the floodplain that exists, about half this tract will be dedicated as parkland and trails along that creek. So I think you'll see the tract developed, but I think a significant part of the tract will be set aside. So we'll do very much.
Thank you. And again, if you have any help, give me a call.
Any other comments in this public hearing? I'm going to close the public hearing, and the council will stand in recess for 1 minute. City Council will now reconvene into open session. We'll move to item D4. This is consideration, discussion, review, and possible action authorizing the city manager to have discussion with the Lost Pines Hyatt and Bastrop Marketing Corporation with regards to the idea of extending Bastrop Corporation marketing agreement from June 1, 2016 through December 31st, 2016 with certain adjustments beginning June 1, 2016, and stipulations to benefit the city of Bastrop. This is my item, but I'm going to call on Kelly to make a statement, and I'm going to follow up.
As you probably know, I've had an accident and I've had surgery, and so I'm not all here tonight. And even though we have a very important agenda for tonight, this is the one item that I asked the mayor to postpone for at least 1 week so that I have a clear, coherent head when I tell you some of the information that I gleaned in the last week about possibilities with the Hyatt, and also so that I could understand everyone else's points of view. The mayor said that he would put it up to the council to decide whether or not we could wait for a week to vote on this. So I've come in to ask you if we could postpone this for 1 week.
So my recommendation is this. We have next week a meeting at 6 to 7 or so to give ourselves a refresher on our ethics ordinances and open meetings acts and that sort of thing. We have set after that from 7 to 9 a meeting of the utility board, ourselves as utility council, and ourselves as utility council. This would, if we postpone this item 45 minutes or so at a time, but I think it's in deference to Kelly and the fact that there is a level of urgency, but it's only 1 week that we have to wait for us all to be here. It's a good recommendation, so I'm awaiting your pleasure.
I would also like to say that I would like to put this off until we have a workshop, which we've been asking for months now, so that we can all be on the same page when we make an important decision like this. So as far as I'm concerned, what we should do is have the workshop very quickly, and then look to see what we want to do with the Wyatt after we all see together as a council what we want to do and how we want to get there.
Other comments?
Well, what are our options? And it seems like we have several options to go with here, trying to get everyone together at the same time. If we meet next week, we won't have had a chance to have the workshop. So,
It would be my preference to have a workshop first, but Ken expressed some urgency in this, which is why I suggested next week. But it is my preference to have a workshop first as well.
We've had months to have a workshop and we haven't done it, so I don't think it
Well,
would.
Kelly, I'm trying to get you out of here so you can go to bed, but I'm not having much luck. Let me just tell you why I raised this issue. We've asked Mike not only to find an expert to lead us in the workshop, but we've asked him to come in here and let the council interview the applicants. All that's going to take a while. So the ability to get that done in the speed y'all want, I don't think is going to happen based on our own decisions. We have scheduled it around other urgent needs, and Mike's told us that he's working on that process as fast as he can. My reason for bringing this up is, let me just tell you why I brought it up. I think it's important for us to do a number of things. One is to buy us time to make a really good decision about what we're going to do about either replacing or extending the Bastrop Marketing Corporation, building a new DMO or something similar, coming up with a new plan. We all want a new plan. I think we've got to be very careful in how we do that, and we don't want to be rushed. One of the things that's rushing us is the fact that our contract with the Hyatt ends on May 31st. The Hyatt has, the Bastrop Marketing Corporation has indicated a frustration with the fact that it's hard for them to plan for part of a year. I have heard from people in the business community that the truth is that the business community mostly makes their money from Labor Day to Christmas, and you can't plan a few months ahead. You have to plan almost a year ahead to get stuff on the table. So it occurred to me that if we could buy ourselves enough time to get through the next Christmas season on a modified, some kind of a modified agreement from June 1st to December 31st with the Bastrop Marketing Corporation that would benefit the city in significant ways that we can determine in a contract kind of conversation with the city attorney and the city manager, that it would allow us to do a number of things that would help us build towards that future deal and would solve the urgency problems of the present. And I don't think we're gonna keep creating anxiety the longer we wait. I'd like to send a message to everybody that's concerned about how long it's taken us to do this or how long it may take, to say we're going to at least continue this process throughout the next big business cycle, and that we wouldn't have to do this. All we do is ask Mike to work on a deal, and if it's something that we accept, we can accept it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But meanwhile, we're doing what we can to try to figure out the best way to work through a complicated situation. And that's my reason for bringing it up.
My recommendation to the council is that we honor Ms. Gillen's request and postpone it until next week so that we can have a workshop session. From my perspective, how we deal with the Hyatt and the DMO are two separate issues. Based upon the people that I've talked with and have discussed the creation of a DMO, one thing has come across loud and clear: you do not create one overnight. It takes about a year to put the proper components together, and there's no cookie cutter approach that fits each community. I'm trying to get two of the state's leading experts in this area to come down free of charge to educate the council on the creation of the DMO so that we can move forward in that direction. And there's a lot of complex factors that are going to have to be taken into account while we work through this process. It won't be done in one workshop, I can tell you that right now. It's going to take more than one workshop. It's going to take several workshops. And because of the amount of money that's involved, I think we have a responsibility to work at it, do it right, and put the right structure in place so it doesn't blow up in our face.
Okay, Gary, Doc, and then Willie.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I really think that extending the contract, the existing contract, makes a lot of sense. I don't think we necessarily want to extend it exactly the way it is right now, but I think my proposal would be to extend the contract along the similar lines to what it is right now and challenge the BMC to be the DMO for the next year, to position themselves to work with all the hot funds organizations and prove that they can accommodate the various and sundry organizations that we have in the city, that they can accommodate that. If they do a good job, I think that would certainly bode well for them to become a long-term DMO or to transition to that DMO. But when we extend, if we challenge them, if we add some language that says, hey, we think that you should inject yourself more into the community, into all the hot fund organizations, then prove yourself. We'll take that into consideration when we look at taking the next step. It will be a proving ground for us. And I think it's very reasonable to extend. Even though we're not going to vote on that today, or I'm happy to wait until next week to hear more information, I'd like to plant those seeds so we're thinking along those lines, if you agree with me at least.
Well, I'd just like to say,
I'm sorry, it's Doc, and then Willie.
I can wait. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'd just like to say, Gary, that I want to clear this up before information gets out there that might be iffy, and that is that a DMO would not work with the organizations individually. It would be a collective effort to market the city. And so I don't want anyone to think the Hyatt intends to work with all the individual organizations. I don't think that's on the table.
But I do believe I met with the Hyatt people this afternoon, and they are committed to participating in the DMO.
Absolutely.
And again, in my discussion with rather extensive this afternoon. They are 100% behind the DMO,
Yes.
but they again echo what I previously said, proceed with caution and make sure you put the right structure together.
And I would say it's essential and that we do have keep a wonderful relationship with the Hyatt like we have now. That is the most important thing we can do to help a lot of the businesses on 71 who are making themselves very well heard about that right now.
Okay, Willie's waving his hand like he wants to. Go ahead, Willie, I'll wait. No, I will wait. I'll yield.
He's trying to yield to you.
Tom, go ahead.
Doc, it's your chance or not?
Exactly, right here.
Basically, what I was going to say is, right now, the big important thing that we're working on is the budget, and I understand why we have not had time to have the workshop is because we're trying to get through the budget process, and that's a very important thing for us to complete. It's going to take more than one workshop, obviously, to work on something of this magnitude, and so therefore, working on an alternative plan, which has been proposed, something like an extension of the contract might work, but it's just a hard decision to make right now because we're still working on the budget. We still have a lot of factors out there that haven't been answered, and so that's something we're going to have to work out. And I don't know how quickly we can work that out, especially with so many unknowns.
Will,
Here, thank you.
I've got y'all on this.
I agree with that. I'm sure you and the manager have discussed or collaborated on this agenda item. I'm in favor of extending the contract through December, but I think it's going to need some modifications on as far as where the current contract sits. Next.
Is adjustments and stipulations to benefit the city of Bastrop, so that's my beginning point.
That's the part I am asking you to please postpone until we all have a chance to speak clear-headedly about this. Everybody up here has got a different idea, they've got a different percentage. Mike made an excellent point. The DMO and the Hyatt are two separate issues. They are intertwined, but giving the Hyatt confidence that we are going to be working with them in the future is the part that we need to do now. The rest of it we need to work out in workshops in great detail. So if we just give Mike the authority to send the message to the Hyatt that please consider us longtime partners and please continue business as usual until told otherwise, that's all further we need to go at this point until we have all the information in. We don't know how much it's going to cost to run a DMO. We don't know the Hyatt's capabilities. Based on what I heard last week, they may have limited capabilities to assist us because of their own expansions and their own issues. We need to talk about it in detail. And none of this stuff needs to be talked about right now. All we need to do is send the Hyatt the message that we are on their team and we will get back to them later. That's all I want to send now. That's all I want to talk about today.
Can I finish mine?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were not, I apologize.
I agree with almost everything she was talking about. I don't think we need a meeting next week. I think tonight we're making, Mike doesn't have the message. I think there's a consensus of the council that we want to continue with the Hyatt through the end of December. I think, and you have an urgency that I don't think that I have in doing this. I think sometime next month, maybe the off Tuesday after the first meeting next month, if we can get, and maybe we don't need those people from the Hyatt that everybody spoke to individually in the last few weeks to come and sit before the council. But I think it'd be good to place them in front of us to see. Each member's got different questions I'm sure they want to ask. And maybe Mike's the person to go do this. I don't know, but I think if they sat here in front of us and we asked questions and they answered our questions, I think we'd be further along.
I would just say in my meeting with them today, they're more than willing to come and meet with the council. And if there's anything specific that you want them to prepare in advance of the meeting, they will have it prepared.
Well, Andreas, I'm sorry, is that working there? No, yeah, it is. Let me see, I can't make a motion, but Willie, if you're saying that you think that my proposal is a good idea, you could put it in the form of a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move that the council authorize Mike and Mike only to discuss contractual terms, potential contractual terms with the Hyatt, and to give them the message that we continue to be long-term partners with them and we have no intention of just cutting them off completely in June. And that is as far as the motion goes today. We don't talk about anything else that's in that motion that you have on the agenda, Ken. None of the stipulations, nothing in executive session, none about percentages, none of that yet, because we are not at that point. That's my motion.
And I second that.
All right, let me make sure I understand it. So Mike would would work with the Hyatt and the Bastrop Marketing Corporation to assure them that we're going to do something after June 1st with them.
Correct.
But we don't have any idea what.
That is correct.
And that would, okay, so let me ask, if we have a motion in a second. So would you envision the council and Mike having a conversation about how long that might extend, what the conditions might be and so
At
forth?
some later point when we all discuss it together.
We haven't even discussed this as a council, not once.
I personally don't think 6 months is going to give anybody any feeling of comfort at all. If we're going to extend the contract, we need to figure out how to extend it for a good period of time that makes more sense. 6 months is nothing. They book their advertising a year in advance, and they will have until June to book their advertising for Labor Day through the holidays, like you said was their crucial area. So they'll have that covered. So I don't think 6 months is long enough. I think it should be longer. You think it should be 6 months to let them show us what they can do, and we need to discuss it all together in a separate workshop when I'm coherent and can figure out what everybody's talking about.
Okay. Anybody have any comments?
I just want clarification on the motion because it kind of went, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
I just want to make sure what I'm voting on.
The motion is that we authorize Mike and Mike alone to enter into discussions with the Hyatt and BMC to continue our contract with both organizations, and we will come back to them later with more details, period.
It would be that we would work to do something beyond May 31st.
That's correct.
Is it clear? Kay, you got it? Did I say Kay again?
Yes.
And you have it? Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say something here. I think that we are very late in making decisions too often. We've had 10 years with this contract, and the Vision Group has been asking for 2 years for everyone to consider this. And this is just another example of how we push things to the very deadline, and then we have to have an urgent vote on it when it should be a very studied, long thing, like Mike was saying. This is going to take over a year to figure out, I'm sure. So I'd just like to say I'd like for us all to work as a team so that we're not pushed up against deadlines when we have to make these decisions.
Anybody else?
Call for the questions so I still remember what the motion is before I forget it.
Do you want me to do that, or you want me to just call for the vote?
Yes, I'll call it for the vote, please.
You want me to, you're recommending I call for a vote? Okay, I accept that recommendation. Would you please, Ann, call the roll?
Councilmember Gilliland,
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa,
Yes.
Councilmember Shipp,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
All right, thank you
Thanks,
all.
Kelly.
Thanks. I'm sorry I can't stay longer. I can barely get through that.
Thank you, Kelly.
I appreciate your patience and let me move up in the agenda. Thank you.
I'm sorry you had to come down here, but I appreciate you doing so.
No, it's important enough that I need to, so I appreciate it.
Honduras, is he in the house? Colin? Okay, Doc, remind me where we were. We had finished the consent agenda? Yeah, we did B1. We did that hearing. B2. We will conduct a public hearing. The City Council will conduct a second public hearing on the proposed property tax rate for the City of Bastrop for fiscal year 2016. Mr. Talbot.
Could I ask a question before we get started?
Before this item, Want to go back?
No, it's regarding this item.
Oh, well, y'all seem to want Mike to,
Well,
why don't you ask Mike a question and it may help him?
I think another one we're asking is, it kind of line with B5. With the budget. And how it might affect the tax rate.
Go ahead and ask him so we can put it as.
Well, I think he understands for the conversation that we had about, and I missed the first budget meeting where the rate came in from the Crows District on the effective rate, and we've gone 1.3 cents above the effective rate. That's why we're having two public hearings. But my big question was, the big picture was, if we were still headed toward a bond issue in November, and what were our plans? Because when we started, if it's in November of next year, and we start a campaign in September for going out and educating the public, we're starting with this tax rate. We're not, unless we're starting with another tax rate that we're going to adopt for October 1 in the next budget year. So I would like to revisit some part of the budget where we had extra funding to the general fund to allow that tax rate to go down that extra penny and 3 cents, which was what was recommended to begin with.
Okay, Mike?
Okay, this is a public hearing regarding the proposed tax rate. Proposed tax rate that's being proposed this year is the same rate as the last year's tax rate of 0.5640. In accordance with the truth and taxation laws of the state of Texas, an entity, the city of Bastrop, in accordance with truth and taxation. The proposed tax rate exceeds the effective rate, which this one does. The entity is required to conduct 2 public hearings. This evening, as a council, will conduct a second public hearing. Cannot take any action regarding the tax rate at the public hearing. The sole purpose of the public hearing is to provide for public input and to address the council regarding the proposed tax rate. And as it relates to the budget, looking back at last year and to this year, the council asked that we cut the tax rate 2 cents last year. I believe all the directors and myself stepped up to the table, and we made that cut to increase the potential bond opportunities that the council will likely consider in the future. A lot of work has gone into the budget that's before us tonight, and if we did not have the fund balance that we had, there would be very little money available to do anything next fiscal year. And so I think at this point, we also have to balance the service delivery that is placed upon the employees of the city to carry out their services. I could not reckon tax rate any less than 0.5640.
Willie, you want to go ahead and make your point? I want to reply to you want to make it more clearly?
Well, the point is that 5504 will bring in the same amount of money that we had this year. That's a given. So, if you want to go back in history, if we're going to go back in time from last year, staff came in the first budget meeting last year and recommended a 3-cent raise on your tax. And after a lot of discussion, we finally got it to lower 2 cents, so we ended up raising the tax rate a penny. And then we're doing it again this year. That penny's gonna bring in what, like $8,000 probably?
It's going to bring in a 1 cent increase is right at $79,000.
okay, pretty close. But the point I'm making, Mayor, is that you cut yourself short with the opportunity to go out and issue more money for a bond if you go out. You can issue, with 1 penny, you can go out and issue another $1 million in bond debt and try to maintain that 60-cent cap or anything under it. But if we're tying ourselves with this 56.5, because the most you'll probably be able to go out for is $4 million. But if you lower it to the effective rate, you're going to end up probably somewhere around that 5, maybe a little more than 5. And that's my only point, because I'm looking at the big picture on bond package next year.
Yeah,
You're not recommending that we lower the effective rate.
I am.
so my comment would be, and a general comment, council member, that the way that we deal with the inflated nature of salaries going up so that we can stay competitive with the rising cost of equipment and so forth that we have to buy and supplies that we have to use, that the way we keep up with that is the inflation at Walmart, Home Depot, and everywhere else, so that we get more sales tax as a result of those inflated prices. The way that we keep up with inflation in terms of ad valorem tax is by the raising of the value of property. And so the raising of property and keeping the same rate is, in my mind, simply an inflationary factor. And that, when we raise the tax rate, or we lower the tax rate, then we're really doing that. But if we allow the tax rate to remain the same and let the market drive the dollars, then it seems to me that's a logical way for us to proceed, and that's what Mike's based this budget on and what we've agreed to heretofore. So, I mean, there's no reason why I think you can't make a motion to change our budget to reflect that tonight. You can't do it during the hearing, but can you do it, is there another place we can do that?
Yes, sir.
So,
I just want to make us aware of what you're doing next year for your bond package.
and I appreciate that. There's
$79,000 that you want to increase the tax rate for a penny, you're taking a chance of not being able to pass $1 million in bonds. That's my point I'm trying to make.
We could also raise the tax rate another penny and get that extra $1 million.
Do we want to get into the discussion we talked about it in the electric fund deal, or is that repetitive matter? Do you want to say for another closed session, or do we want to talk about it in
We cannot talk about our electric fund in open session.
We can't talk about the revenues that we have, or anything concerning revenues that
When you get into the financial operations, this is a proprietary fund, and you would be disclosing information in a public meeting that I think would not be in the best interest of the operation.
Let me ask you this, when you put it on your budget that you're transferring in X amount of dollars to your general fund from your electric fund, how is that any different?
It's just showing an amount, and that's all it shows.
That's my point. Well, why can't that amount be higher?
I think that, I can show you in executive session why raising that would not at this point in time be in the best interest of the city. We're going to have a meeting next week, and I've talked to the mayor about this very specific issue, and I will be showing you some projections, and you still have until the second reading to change the tax rate, and we will have, as part of our utility workshop, an executive session to go over the electric fund financials, and then after what I present to you, if you disagree, we can go from there. I think you should have that information before that decision is made, and you still have time to make that decision.
This is a public hearing on the property tax rate. Anyone in the audience any citizens want to make a comment? Any council members? All right, I'm gonna, as I come to the close of this public hearing, I want the world to know that the Bastrop City Council will consider the second reading of an ordinance to adopt the tax rate for the city of Bastrop fiscal year 2016 at the September 22nd, 2015 City Council meeting at 6:30 p.m. at the City Hall,
located at 1311 Chestnut Street, Bastrop, Texas, 78602. And I'm now closing the public hearing. Item B3, first reading of an ordinance of the City of Bastrop, Texas, revising the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 13, Utilities, by amending Section 13.02006, reconnects fees and service fees for delinquent accounts, amending Sections 13.07.001, residential service, 13.07002, commercial service, and 13.07003, key accounts, and adding Section 13.07.006, disconnect and reconnect fees for delinquent accounts, amending Appendix A, fee schedules, Section 13.02, water and wastewater rates and charges, 13.07, electrical service, and 13.09, utility fees, rates, and deposits, and providing an effective date. Ms. Walter, or Mike.
Yes, this is on B3, and as stated in the staff write-up, this is an ordinance that is going to change the due date from the 10th to the 15th. This is part of the AMI system that we put in, so that at the time we read our meters, LCRA will also be reading their meters, and so there will not be that continued gap that we have had to deal with for many years. And also, as moving forward into the AMI program, we have had the council several years ago make some approve a utility policy, and this ordinance clarifies and coordinates the ordinance with the utility policy. These are just basically cleanup items where discrepancies exist between the policy and the ordinance, and also reflecting our move into the AMI system. Recommend approval.
Willie, I'll make a motion to approve that on the first reading. I just want to ask a question, the bills still go out the first, and they got to the 15th?
Well, let's start going out.
We'll change that.
15, oh, 15, okay, that's what.
It'll be out by the 5th, but we do on the 15th.
Well, that's right.
Willie, can you use your mic, I think?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
This is not raising fees for reconnect at all, right? Or,
No, it's just clarifying the language between the ordinance and the policy.
okay.
We had discrepancy between what's in the code of ordinances and our utility policy. This is just a cleanup to make sure they both match. And, changing the pay date of your bill to coincide with our new metering system, because the primary goal of that was to have that reflect at the same time LCRA reads our meters, so we don't have this big gap that we've been dealing with.
Great, thank you.
Would that be on the channel cam?
Certainly, yes, sir.
This is a first reading. It is subject to a motion.
I make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Willie, seconded by Kay. Any further discussion? You want this to show up on the consent agenda next time? No.
Whatever y'all's pleasure.
It's your motion. I think I'm understanding Mr. De La Rosa to say this is a motion to pass on first reading, to place on the consent agenda for the second reading, item B3.
My second.
And Kay seconds that motion. Is there any discussion? Ann, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa. Yes. Councilmember McAnally.
Yes.
Councilmember Shipp.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B4, first reading of an ordinance amending the Bastrop City Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Fee Schedule, Article A 13.02, Water and Wastewater Rates and Charges, repealing conflicting provisions, providing serviceability, and providing an effective date. Mr. Talbot.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, What is before you is a condensed version of the budget, but it covers the very important pertinent points of our budget, and as soon as it's brought up, we'll start going through it.
But are we going to be for those?
This is on,
This is
Water.
Water, wastewater
oh, I'm sorry,
is next.
okay, go ahead, that's to, oh, increased rates, yes. And that's part of our capital improvements program, which we'll be discussing next week. We've been doing 500 and 500,000 worth of water and wastewater for the last 4 years.
And this is, as I recall, something that carried over from several councils ago, and we're keeping that up to increase to work with our horribly aged infrastructure.
And you're the only ones that have consistently kept this program on track 4 years in a row.
Yeah, that's good, I guess. So what do we need to do? We need to pass this or not?
Pass it on first reading.
First reading, that's an opportunity for someone to make a motion.
I would, just so noted on page 4, Mike's comments that we're talking about 3.5%.
Yes.
From Rimrock Consulting Firm.
Yes, that was, she did a 5-year projection of what our rates need to be, and this is exactly what it
Page
calls.
13.
It's a 3.5.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
We read the caption, yes, or have you already read it?
I have, I'll read it again to make sure.
Oh.
This is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Bastrop City Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Fee Schedule, Article A 13.02, Water and wastewater rates and charges, repealing conflicting provisions, providing serviceability, and providing an effective date. Ms. Franklin, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Delversa.
Yes.
Councilmember Shell.
Yes.
Councilmember McEnroe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you all. Item B5 is, yes,
Yeah, saying it.
we can remember to place it on there because we've got a request to do that. And we'll remember, because I won't. Thank you, sir. Item B5, conduct a public hearing on the proposed budget for the city of Bastrop for fiscal year 2016.
Now that I'm on track, this is the first public hearing regarding the fiscal year 2015-2016 operating budget for all funds within the city of Bastrop. The last few years, we've had a theme regarding our budget and what we should be looking towards going into the new fiscal year. And our theme this year is moving forward with everything that we have seen on over the past year and the way many organizations and entities are moving. We feel it's just incumbent that we be progressive and start really moving forward. Moving forward, it's a proposed theme for the fiscal year 16 budget. As we are all aware, the city is going to be confronted with a multitude of challenges, issues, and opportunities as Bastrop continues to grow. Our ability to be proactive and properly deal with the many issues growth brings to a municipality will determine how far we move forward collectively in fiscal year 16. My selected theme moving forward is intended to focus on a variety of community issues, planning initiatives, economic development opportunities, infrastructure projects, as well as an overview of the efforts that are either currently underway or that are planned for this next fiscal year. This approach will provide a profound direction for the city during fiscal year 16 and beyond. Moving forward also expresses a process of thoughtful reflection on where we are today and preparation for setting a direction for the future with a full assessment of the following: the desired goals and objectives, the route to accomplish the task, the factoring of obstacles and challenges, and assessment of the allocation of resources. budget is a management guide and an executive planning document and a financial report. It helps identify future needs, sets objectives for the coming year, and defines the purposes and resources to achieve those objectives. First and most importantly, the proposed fiscal year budget is a balanced budget and is presented to the council in accordance with the city's home rule charter. The budget represents a series of balances construed between revenues and expenditure, prioritized operationally and long-term community investment strategy. This budget has been developed with the goal of providing a wide range of quality public services to our community with the goal of continuing increasing the quality of life engendered by the citizens of Bastrop through efficient fiscal, personal, and capital management in accordance with your stated goals and priorities. I want to give my thanks to the mayor and council for the numerous budget workshops they attended in the development of fiscal year 16 budget, as well as to the city's chief financial officer, Ms. Tracy Waldron, which made this possible tonight, and all of the city directors who provided extra hours of work and assistance in the development of the fiscal year 16 budget. As always, this work was a result of team input and the effort and desire to produce an acceptable budget for the city of Bastrop. Moving forward, some of the goals and objectives is plan for the growth. We want to complete the new comprehensive plan by June 2016, possibly revisit and enhance the Bastrop heritage, serve as a community information and resource, provide the highest level of customer service through excellent delivery and for municipal services, monitor and minimize financial impact on the Bastrop homeowners, residents, and businesses. Fund the compensation plan to retain and reward and attract a highly qualified workforce. I learned late this afternoon we lost a rather, for us, a long-term employee of 5 years to Hobby Lobby for $15 an hour. So it's getting to be very competitive out there. Improve our technology and management skill sets, address service level needs before requesting additional personnel. We're fortunate to have Andreas, who has, I think, made us all more efficient with technology, and now with Colin on board, not only helping with the technology, but with the pay channel. I think will go a long ways in getting our message out and really holding down our personnel only as need basis. Adequately fund an infrastructure maintenance program, which I said earlier, this council has consistently done 4 years in a row. Prioritize public safety and quality of life issues for the citizens. Continue to fund the equipment and vehicle needs of the various city departments. We're getting very close to having as good a fleet as the city's ever had. Monitor the city's fiscal financial policies to ensure and maintain the financial integrity of the city. That's paramount, especially if you're going to consider moving into a bond issue sometime in the future. Continue to focus and work on the long-term water supply needs of the city, as well as evaluate future wastewater treatment needs and potential expansion for the city. Continue to provide full disclosure, transparency, and public involvement in all phases of city government. And I think we saw a taste of that last week when 100 people showed up to make comments on our comprehensive plan. And also support the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation and their economic development efforts, and create a partnership with other entities in the community whenever possible. The fiscal year budget continues the objectives and priorities identified and scored by the City Council during the annual plan retreat held in January 2015. The top 10 priorities as identified by the council were as follows. Update the city comprehensive plan, which is underway. Develop a short-term and long-term water strategy for the city that is in the process of being implemented. Develop and adapt a plan annexation and utility expansion. Develop a plan for fire protection. As you'll see later in the budget, I'm calling for the first time that we create the position of a fire chief that will be a full-time employee for the city. continuing benchmarking, including staffing level, types of services, financial metrics, succession planning, tax rate, and indebtedness. Explore a plan for affordable housing within the city. Consider constraints, incentives for infill development. Made one step in that direction with form-based code, but we may have to consider some other economic tools to make that a reality. Consider fund level, tax rate, and future bonded indebtedness for future infrastructure. Annual review of the city manager performance. Complete implementation of the form-based code for zoning, which has been completed, and review police staffing and facility needs for the police department. This is something earlier tonight, the public notice that was put in the newspaper showing the proposed rate, the preceding rate, the effective rate, and the rollback rate. So you can see we're way under the rollback rate, but we are higher than the effective rate. At this point in time, the certified tax roll we received from the Bastrop County Appraisal District, we had $782,928,050 with a tax rate of 0.564, and when we adjust for our tax levy freezes for people who qualify, we'll bring in about $4.4 million, and then the tax levy for the frozen about $365. So we're going to bring in $4,781,132. This year, we did not hit higher than a 97% collection rate. So that's why we put in the 97% collection rate. I will say that's one area that we've seen a shift over the last few years. Historically, we've always had 100% collection, but we have seen that the last couple of years go down. The other thing that we experienced during the course of this fiscal year is, I said the certified tax roll as of tonight. There still are many tax protests going on. We could get a revised tax roll like we did last year, and we lost $15 million off the tax roll when we got it revised. And so we have to factor that in there. And then this is just a breakdown of the total dollars that will be collected, tax dollars from property for both the tax rate, tax-free, delinquent, and penalties and interest is $4,662,000. This just provides a historic overview, and we've kept it, other than for about a 3-year period, we've kept it pretty close between the 55 and 56 range. Again, I'm not going to go through those numbers, I just went over them, but I wanted you to see historically what our tax rate has been over the last about 10 years. This is just a summary of your revenues for the general fund, your debt service, which comes out of your tax dollars, capital improvements, which are some bond monies, special revenue fund, hotel motel tax, and things of that nature. And carrying on, water and wastewater, BP&L, we show revenue in, expenditures, and ending fund balance, and of course, the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. When you take all the funds in the city, we have basically a $41 million budget. That has grown considerably over time because of our growth, and that is not an amount to look at lightly when you're up to $41 million. This just gives the council, we know you like to see the pictures. Service fees make up the largest part of your revenues. That's your electric rates, water and wastewater rates. Sales tax is very strong, as well as your ad valorem taxes. And we'll get into that in a minute on a different slide. This is how your money is spent or broken up. General government, that's the council, myself, the organization, finance, human resources, public safety is police and fire, development services is the library, community services is, development services, the planning department, community services, the library, park and rec. Utilities are your electric, water and wastewater, debt service, economic development, capital projects, and transfers. And again, 24% is under the community services. That also includes some of your hotel and motel tax funds. As you can see, by far our largest expenditures are through our general fund, followed by the electric and water and wastewater, and then starts to taper down. I think that we've talked about tax rates and bond indebtedness, and we do need each time to look at each individual fund. But when you look at basically your overall bond indebtedness being about 5% of the budget, that's not a number that would be an alarming to someone reviewing us as for bond issues. This is the draft reorganizational chart of step 1 of 3 steps that we'll be going through in this fiscal year. Step 1 will be to create a position of Director of Public Safety. I will be moving Chief Adcock up to that position, and then underneath his supervision as Director of Public Safety will be police, and we will commence the first step towards a paid fire department by hiring a fire chief to start putting into place the items that are needed for a fire department, but always keeping in mind that for years to come, we're still going to need our volunteers as much today as we will in the future. And this just shows the number of personnel. You see we've actually gone down in the general fund. I had to shift some positions around to pay for the fire chief, and eliminate a couple of positions because I felt that that was a very critical position that needed to be filled in this year's budget. Some of the program requests is our market wage adjustment and the annual step. We are creating a part-time person for the Human Resource Department and a full-time fire chief. These are some of the items. You'll note that they're annotated, either came out of fund balance or out of the operations. After several workshops, we moved $250,000 into contingency, and if you'll recall, we discussed we will look at that at the end of March and see how we're operating financially. If we're comfortable, we'll move that out, and that money will go for replacing the bathrooms down in Fisherman's Park. We're upgrading our phone system. This will be a one-time upgrade, and going forward in the future, we'll reduce down our maintenance costs and any future upgrades. And our computer replacement program and a vehicle for the IT director. We're calling for the purchase of 3 patrol units plus 6 6 handheld radios. On the fire department, one of the highest priorities after October 1 is to get the facade repair done now that the roof has been repaired. Purchase of protective gear, command truck, and a contingency. The planning department, because of the level of building, needs occasional assistance in inspection, and we budgeted for that. And the carryover for the comprehensive plan, as I have told you, I think several months ago, we received a grant to continue the Chestnut Street project with the trail all the way up to the state park. This will be the first phase of analyzing how best to route that up. I think the biggest step forward we've made, we've never seen these kind of numbers that we're investing in our streets and public works department. Last year we budgeted 155. We started out with 155, and you all added another 600,000. So we have $755,000 to do street repair, make some improvements to the public works department, so that we have the proper equipment. We need to buy another freight line dump truck and repair the Tahitian Village Drive. We want to replace the playscape at Jules Park, the bank stabilization project. That's part of what we think has caused that additional sandbar, and hopefully putting in some more those arms that stick out the rock, and push more of that water out, and we won't have as much of that sand accumulating. Do more for the park department too. The building maintenance is for the custodians to go around. Their van is just about wore out, and we're calling for replacement of their van and adding some more computers at the library. This is the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. This just shows that they have a fund balance of 2.6. Their budgeted revenues is about 1.9 million for this upcoming year, which gives them total resources of 4,575,000. They're proposing to spend 1,933,000, so basically ending up with the same fund balance as they started out with. A few noteworthy achievements by the city in fiscal year 2015. We kicked off a comprehensive plan. We completed or in progress streets and wastewater improvements to Chambers, Walnut, and Spring. We completed phase 2 of the Farm Street Improvement Project. And again, if you have not driven down there, I would strongly encourage you to do that. That job came out ahead of schedule and under budget. We've taken over the operation of the rodeo arena, and we'll be following up in some future council meetings and some things that need to be done up there. We were finally able to achieve the purchase of the advertiser building, and as you know, the building is down, and now we have additional parking back there. A big hit for the citizens with the replacement of the playscape at Fisherman's Park. Approved plating for the first phase of the new subdivision Pecan Park, which will add 90 new homes to our city. We received 2 very large FEMA grants to install new generators at the Loop 150 and Willow lift stations. Completed the automated reading infrastructure project. Commenced the installation of the water filtration system at Willow Street, Wellfield at Fisherman's Park. Completed and implemented the form-based code project, and coordinated with the developer on several new stores in Burlington Crossing Center, most of the high-profile of those academies. Coordinated with the University of Texas Center for a Transportation Research Department, a mobility study to determine traffic impact on the city as a result of State Highway 71 improvements. Kicked off the process of getting 2,000 additional acres of water permitted for use by the city. Commenced updating the wastewater master plan to determine the future wastewater needs, and that's going to be a very big subject in fiscal year 16. We had to relocate the utilities and electric lines at the Tahitian Village overpass, and took over the operation and programming public education government channel. We think that's a big step forward for us, and it's going to return many positive results for the city. So that's just a very brief overview, but I think it clearly demonstrates that y'all have been putting a lot of hours up here, just like we all have been, but with those projects that we've had and are before us, it's going to take us all working together to get it done. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Well done, thank you.
I will ask anyone in the audience, this is a public hearing. It's very important. Mike, let me ask you this. The details of the budget are available to the public?
Yes, there's a copy in the city secretary's office.
Okay, and is it on the website?
Yes.
It's on the website, so if anybody wants to see it, you can look it up and go through every detail you want.
And there's my budget letter here, but I didn't want to read that to you.
Okay, well, appreciate that. Any comments from anybody? All right, I'm going to call a close to this public hearing. We will move to item B6, which is the first reading of an ordinance, the City of Bastrop, Texas, adopting a budget and appropriating resources for fiscal year 2015-2016, beginning October 1st, 2015, and ending September 30, 2016, in accordance with existing statutory requirements, repealing all conflicting ordinances containing a serviceability clause, and providing for an effective date, with second reading and final adoption of the City of Bastrop budget for fiscal year 2015-2016 to be held on September 22nd, 2015. Willie, you want to follow up your comments with, now that we're talking about the budget itself? Or you want to make a proposal that we make some changes, or?
I don't know if I can, because part of it, it speaks to the electric fund revenue, so I mean, if I'm not allowed to speak to the particular number or surplus revenue, I mean,
So let me refresh my memory. We can amend this on the second reading.
And if you want to.
Is that correct?
Yes, you can. We do have electric competitive matters posted for executive session. If you want to go in and talk about it right now, we can do it now before you go.
But let me make sure that you could wait until the 22nd to do that, correct? That's legal. Okay. I'm sorry I asked you the question, Willie. I forgot about the previous conversation.
The council reserved the right to change the budget
For the last minute.
last minute.
Okay. All right. That clarifies my understanding. Council members, we will have to have a motion to approve this on first reading, and it will not be on the consent agenda at the next meeting. If we approve the first reading, if we don't have a budget and we're all in serious trouble. So anybody want to make a motion?
I will on the first reading.
I've got a motion. Is there a second? Willie seconds. Comments?
Yeah,
Can you get your mic working? I'd sure appreciate
I'll
it.
ask you at the next meeting.
Just because your mic's not working,
I just got a question, I'll probably figure it out tonight when I'm sleeping, why the sales taxes. I'm trying to figure out the sales tax on one page in your report where it had like five something, when our projected sales tax is right under 4 million, because BDC is about half of that. That was something I probably could ask you outside. Huh? Okay.
There are more graphs and illustrations in your budget.
Yeah, I was following along, I was gonna ask you that, but it when we were talking.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? And please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa.
Oh, no, Doc moved, sorry. Well, let's
Sorry.
not go.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara, yes. Councilmember Schiff.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Doctor.
Item B7, first reading of an ordinance fixing the tax rate and levy for the City of Bastrop, Texas for the purpose of paying the current expenses of the city for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2016, and for the further purpose of creating a sinking fund to retire of the city, providing for a lien on all real and personal property to secure payment of taxes due thereon, containing a serviceability clause, repealing all ordinances and parts thereof in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Mr. Talbot.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, this is the first reading, item B7, which is an ordinance.
Is your mic on?
I think it is. This is the first reading of the ordinance that would set the tax rate for fiscal year 16. This is the first reading, but it will not become effective until after read a second time and approved by the council a second time. But I do recommend approval, and it be placed on the regular business, not on the consent, in the event the council wants to have further discussions.
This is a first reading, requires a motion and a second and a vote. I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Don't want to rush you. A lot of this stuff is just making sure we're legally doing what we plan to do, correct?
Right. The only thing is, after 33 years, I've even asked other cities, you approve your budget first, then your tax rate. If you don't approve the tax rate, what does that do to the budget? And this is the way the state law requires it. And I have yet to find a city where that has occurred, where they approve the budget but lower the tax rate.
Well, it is Texas, and we do have a legislature. I think we're ready to vote, ma'am.
Councilmember Shipp?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember McEnroe?
Yes.
We've killed the Bs. We have no Cs. We have done item D1. We move to item D2. Consideration, discussion, and possible action to recognize the City of Bastrop's Mayfest Park Rodeo Arena as a city facility eligible for improvements to be made with HOP funding as specifically provided for by the 83rd Texas Legislature regular session according to House Bill 3615, signed by the Governor Abbott on June 19, 2015 for the economic benefit of and enhancement of overnight tourism and hotel industry in the City of Bastrop. Councilmember McEnroe.
Mr. Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen, for years, the City of Bastrop's Mayfest Park Rodeo Arena and Sports Facility has been a favorite venue for both local participants and visiting enthusiasts alike. The rodeo riders, their supporters, families, and friends have enjoyed the arena and the events taking place there. Unfortunately, after years of inadequate funds to fully support our arena, this great facility has fallen into disrepair. Thanks to the efforts of our mayor and city manager, the City of Bastrop is now fully managing the facility, and we have every intention of making it a first-rate venue that the citizens of Bastrop and our visitors will be proud to own and use. The job of managing that facility has fallen to the Parks Department. As we all know, the budgets in our city departments are stretched, but urgent repairs and improvements are needed. One of the great things about the Mayfest Park facility is that the events held there bring people to Bastrop, people who stay for one or more nights during those rodeos. The rodeo arena puts heads on beds. Council has heard from local hoteliers that they regard the rodeo events as some of Bastrop's best attractions in terms of bed nights. Jonathan Adam from the Holiday Inn Express in Bastrop has counted 104 bed nights so far this year as a direct result of visitors to the rodeo arena. Is Jonathan here? Thank you.
No, that's in the whole market. That's just not my,
Oh,
that's
okay.
not just me, that's
Thank
the
you.
market.
Improving the arena will mean more local, regional, and state competitions, and perhaps even other large tourist draws like concerts and convention rodeos for our convention center and hotels. With the approval of council, I brought an initiative to the Texas Legislature earlier this year to open HOT funding the development of the arena and other Bastrop sports facilities. I'm delighted to say that the Texas Legislature passed House Bill 3615, which specifically allows the use of HOT funds to improve the City of Bastrop's rodeo arena. The legislature directed that certain criteria would need to be met. It would need to be clear that tourists have used the facility for regional or state events, which would support the hotel industry. I'm pleased to inform council that the Mayfest Rodeo Arena event schedule has met the criteria set forth by the Texas And with your approval, we are now permitted to use tourist-generated hot fund money for improvements to this facility. The arena schedule was handed to you earlier, and I want to thank Attorney Justin Regal at the Texas Hotels and Lodging Association, and also State Representative John Syrier for their assistance and leadership in shepherding Bill 3615, especially written for the city of Bastrop through the Capitol. Mayfest Park Rodeo Arena and Sports Facility is a proven tourist attraction for the city of Bastrop with a major potential for the future. Therefore, it should be included as a Tier 1 commitment by the council, along with the convention center and the visitor center, and I so move.
So, since we have, so what you're proposing is that we have agreed that we won't spend any money other than Tier 1 money, and you want to put that in that category. That's,
Can you just...
well, we had, one of the things we have done is we said we're not going to talk about
Tier
any.
2 and Tier 3?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about only the essentials,
That's right.
and you want to put this in the essential
Yes,
category.
because it is a city property and we are now completely responsible.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
That fits the process that we're in the middle of in terms of hot money. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, Mike, you want to, your reflections on this?
I think Ms. McAnally summarized it very well. Mr. Job and I have been analyzing the arena. I think there's a lot of potential up there, but it does need some improvements. We're working on a very detailed budget, try to have it to you at the next council meeting. But I think making those improvements will clearly enhance the interest of rodeo production companies to want to come in here and put on rodeos.
Okay, other council member comments, questions? Gary?
Wondered do we have a budget on
Not
what
yet.
those improvements
That's what I'm looking preparing for you.
That Mayor.
Yes,
That's
well-
kind of where I was leading, and Mike, is this body going to be in charge of recommending to you, or are you coming to us for recommendations, or is this going to fall under the Parks Board?
It's however you want to set it up. I'm taking the initiative of bringing it to you because I think there's a great amount of potential that could be received up there, but until we make some improvements, it's
Well, and that's what I'm going into, excuse me, that's what I'm going into. If you're doing it, that's fine, I was just saying, I don't know what your plan is for 1 year, 2 years, but I hope we develop some kind of plan or goals to go from 1 year to the next, to the next, to the next, till we get to a point where we're satisfied.
right. And we're talking to rodeo production companies and what they look at when they come into the facility. So we're not just talking to what we see or hear. We're also talking to those type of companies and what they look at when they're evaluating an arena to come into a community.
Oh, you mentioned there was a schedule of some kind?
Yes, I think it was passed out, when I say schedule, there was a list of the 10 events that qualified the arena. Gary, did you pass one to Don? I handed them to you just before.
I didn't know what that was.
Oh,
Here you go, here's a bunch of this, yeah. Here's some.
sorry. Here. It's just a list of the 10 events that qualify the arena for the use of the hot funds.
Any other comments or questions? I think we're ready to vote. Yeah, the motion was by Kay and seconded by Willie.
Councilmember McAnally,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa,
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
All right, thank you all. Item D3, consideration, discussion, and review and possible action regarding the submittal of project to Bastrop County for the HUD General Land Office Shelter Grant Program. Mr. Talbot.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I did meet with had a long discussion about the feasibility of the line coming down here. I truly believe that they want to be part of the Bastrop community. And so their offer to me or suggestion was they've gone back and re-looked at a variety of items and issues and are proposing to somewhat scale back their facility from 35,000 to 20,000, but build it in such a manner that they could add another 15,000 square feet down the road. All they would ask for from the city is that we donate or provide to the Y our portion of the shelter grant. That would be the only cost to the city. The one impediment to that was we have a deadline of September 30th facing us. I did have an extensive meeting with Judge Poppy because the Y said it would take them 90 days to put their plan together. And we had a long discussion, especially since I got a letter on Friday saying, you know, at the end of the month, we got to know what you need, what you're going to do. But Judge Poppy would go along with granting a 90-day extension to give the Y the opportunity to see if they can put this together with the 1.6 million and be able to bring YMCA down here. Now, that's the good part. The bad part is that at the end of 90 days, if they're not able to do it, we have to build a building. And we're just going to have to figure out a way to build a building for the 1.5 million. I also discussed with the Y that the Boys and Girls Club was also working on a project. We did get the update tonight. I didn't have that information previously. They have no objection of extending an open hand to the Boys and Girls Club, making some time available at the facility for them. But that would be, unless they bring something substantial to the table, the Y needs all of the space most of the time, programming to get their return to pay the debt that they're going to be created down here. I think that's a fair compromise, and in the 90 days that the Y is putting together their plan, we're going to be putting together a couple of options because on day 91, we have got to have something in the county judge's office or we will lose our funding.
So let me make sure I'm clear, Mike. You're making a proposal that we go back to what was, I think, once our number one priority, which was the Y, if we didn't have to spend any more than 1.5 million. And then, while they're working on their plan, we'll come up with plan B, which is where we were yesterday, or where we are without this discussion. So if somebody, for example, had an idea that hadn't hit the table yet, they would be able to bring that up as a plan B option. We would wrestle to the ground an item that's plan B, ready to go, signed, sealed, delivered, that we would hand to the judge if the Y project doesn't work.
That is,
do I have that correct?
That's correct. The only other thing that I'm recommending is that between now and next council meeting, that we develop a memorandum of understanding between the Y and the city, so there's no miscommunication when we hit that 90-day mark. I didn't understand this, or I didn't understand this, because it took quite a amount of time and effort to get this put together. And I think the Y's on board, they're ready to go. But I think it's business, and I think from a business perspective, we need to put this on.
Council members.
Here.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a reasonable plan. I'd like, as you look at the Plan B and potentially C, I think Plan B, you already said, would be maybe the larger Boys and Girls Club proposed today. And I think on option C, I met last week with Chester at the Opera House, and we talked about the potential of using the land adjacent to the Opera House, which they've already got a plan in place. It obviously doesn't have the FEMA requirements in it, but there is sort of a scale plan to show how much space could be available there. And it was discussed between the Opera House and the Boys and Girls Club the potential of making that new wing compatible with the Boys and Girls Club, so that during the hours that the Boys and Girls Club use it, which would be afternoon hours, it would be dedicated to the Boys and Girls Club. Evenings, weekends would be Opera House operation. Since it's adjacent to the senior center, I mean, there's even a potential to tie that in to use the property of the senior center. I don't want to go too far with this thing, but it looks like there are lots of options there. If that could be an option C, I think that would be a reasonable one to do.
And I think there's an option D and E and F too.
At some point, we'd have a B. It would have to settle on, or whatever the number is, we have to settle on the second option. I might add, I think the advantage of the option C with the Opera House is that the Opera House is already there. I mean, it needs a new roof, it needs some fix-up, but it's already a sort of habitable facility, and it could be used in its present state. I'm guessing, again, I'm not a FEMA expert, but I think the theater park could be used as sleeping area without much modification, and you'd have the bathrooms and the showers and all those things that also could be used for dressing rooms for the production facilities. Anyhow, I think there's some overlapping functions there. If you looked at what's there, what wants to be there for a functioning Opera House, what wants to be there for a functioning Boys and Girls Club, you have the elements that could be cross-utilized and make a very nice facility, multi-use facility for the city of Bastrop.
Just going back to the process, I mean, tonight Mike's asking us if we want the Y to be our first priority again. Let him work on it as he described, and then we've got 90 days to have this second conversation.
We can't wait till day 5.
No, but I'm saying we've got 90 days to get it done, but I don't know, it needs to start tonight. But I think we've already had a lot of this conversation, and at some point we just have to settle on one thing. That will be our backup plan. Willie?
But having backup plans and having other options, I think, is good to discuss, but we do need to come to a decision on what we're going to do, but the backup plans, like what Gary's recommending and what, C and D that Kay was talking about, are good to hear.
Yeah. Willie, you wanted to say something?
At what point in time are we going to solidify whether everybody that's, B, C, D, and F are going to maybe be the actual option if this doesn't go through that we're at B?
We have to decide we're going to build an X at this spot for this purpose, for this money. I mean, it's got to be completely definite, whatever it is. We won't have to decide it tonight.
Because the last 2 weeks, I haven't heard any of these, but one of the Boys and Girls Club. I've heard other options out there.
Well,
There were other options.
at our workshop, there were 2 or 3 options.
I'm not out across the street.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know that, Mike, do you want us to sell this Plan B tonight? You just want us to
No, but I just
go with Plan A, right?
I just want the council to understand, which we're basically there right now, of having to come up with something, except that we've got the Y who has come back into the picture and is willing to make a full court press to make this partnership.
Well, I'm saying,
I move to approve.
well,
Sorry.
I was going to say,
go ahead and make your motion, that goes for it, yeah.
I'd just like to move that we get Mike, Mike, you looking for instruction, is that what you're looking for? That we instruct Mike to go forward with an MOU or whatever else needs to be done to get this Y opportunity put in place.
And you already have approval from, I'm sorry, is there a second?
Second for the question.
Good thing, just make sure you already have approval from the county. You don't need that, Willie?
With this letter, this MOU that you're gonna draft, just state specifically what the amount of money is going, that grant money.
No, it's gonna say what the responsibilities of both parties are gonna
And
do.
all the money that we're responsible from the city is the HUD grant.
That is correct.
That's what I want to understand, it's in that agreement. But
That our only cash contribution will be the amount of the FEMA grant.
And I will say that, and let's put on the agenda for the next meeting, a discussion, at least a first shot at everybody's views about what Plan B might be. And then we can start discussing that.
Yeah, and I might add, I think that Plan B, C, D, or however many you've got is gonna be substantially driven by what I see as a pretty limited budget. You know, $1.5 million today doesn't, it doesn't build much, so.
That's
I think
for
very,
location.
very quickly, I think Mike can look at the structures the potential structure that might be built and what the cost would be and determine will it fit or won't fit within the grant parameters.
And I think the way we left this off before tonight was Mike was going to make some recommendations, or a recommendation about what to do with $1.5 million, period. And I'm sure you can still work on that. Any other discussion?
Did we have a second? All I had is.
We had a motion by Kay and a second. We had a second by Willie, and then he wanted to ask a question. Yes, that's what I recall. So please call the roll.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delrosa?
yes.
Councilmember Shipp?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you all. We have disposed of item D4. Item D5 is consideration, discussion, review, and possible action regarding the approval of terms of the Bastrop Arts and Public Places Board members as the Bastrop Arts and Public Places understand their terms on the BAIPP Board. Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I did attend the IAPP meeting on August 10th, and there were some discrepancies between what we showed on our records for the terms and what they showed the terms. Because of some issues that we identified, I felt that their list was more accurate than the city's, and I'm just asking that we formally acknowledge that the terms that they submitted to be from their list be the official list of their terms.
Yeah, I want to recommend this as well because that's what they have is exactly what I thought we were doing when we passed that ordinance and included the existing terms. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Let's call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delrosa?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yeah. Yes.
Councilmember Shipp?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you all. Item D6. Consideration, discussion, review, and possible action regarding a request from the Bastrop Arts and Public Places Commission, I think it is now, to be authorized to purchase the bronze sculpture Mystic Flight for Mr. Don Pogue for $24,000. Mike Talbot.
Yes, again, they were very busy at their August 10th meeting. They currently have $12,000 in their account for new projects. They would very much like to purchase the Mystic Flight sculpture. They received a price of $24,000 from the gentleman who developed the sculpture. They are currently trying to raise private dollars to get to the amount of $12,000. But by September 30th, if they have not reached that goal, they're asking that the $12,000 for the new project be carried over in their fund balance, and I would recommend that we do that, and the council approve it.
Now, do we have to
change budgets and stuff to do that? I thought we couldn't roll stuff over. So you're saying we can? Okay, I won't ask any more questions.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Anybody else?
I say about it, Gary, Gary.
No, good, okay, he's done it. I think we're ready to vote.
Councilmember McNally?
Yes.
Councilmember Ship?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delworth?
Yes.
Now, if we do buy it, are we, I guess we're going to, if he's gonna sell it, does it just stay where it is? Or who decides, is you gonna just leave it where it is? That's the one right at the beginning of the bridge, the old bridge, right? Right at the entrance to.
The discussion of the board was to leave it where it is right now, but with the, ability for the city to request, or anyone to request it to be moved, then we can discuss where.
Move it from neighborhood to neighborhood, that's right. Good
Well,
fly.
it's kind of that.
In front of mine, you're not in front of my house. Okay, that's a great job. Thank you all for, do we have any more of your items? Anyway, whatever it is, thank y'all for the great stuff you're doing. Please carry that to your, you and Deborah carry that to the commission, please, on our behalf. Item D7, consideration, discussion, possible action on accepting the unaudited monthly financial reports and quarterly investment report for the period ending July 31, 2015. Ms. Waller. Oh, hey, Tracy, can we wait on that and do these others? I know everybody's waiting on something here for the rest of the meeting, aren't you, anyway? Let's come back to D7. D8. No, D8. Do we need D8? Oh, yes, yeah. Well, who we got? D9? You got somebody waiting on D9? D9, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the Boys and Girls Club of Bastrop request for release of payment of community support funds approved by the City Council for their organization for fiscal year 2015. Tracy.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm going to ask that Ms. Walden come up. She has to.
Sure, there she goes.
Working with the boys.
Yes, the Boys and Girls Club had contacted me regarding they were given funding during the fiscal year, but because they weren't in operation, the funding was not paid out to them, and they've come back now requesting that we give them this funding.
This is for money that we paid everybody else 11 months ago.
We held that money, and they're still within
Held
the
it
time period.
because they were not in operation.
Okay.
But it was not taken away from them, it was just put
No.
aside.
But it was approved.
It was approved funding at that time, yes.
But there was nobody to write the check to. Sorry, so more or less.
Correct.
Will it be used in this, will it be used right away in this period?
I think that's a really good question.
Ms. Albers, you want to comment on that?
As you know, we've been trying to find a place where we can reopen the Bastrop Club since we had to close it after the Housing Authority took the facility. And we have been offered a building for free of charge in Bastrop, and we'd like to reopen the club there, and we're looking for the $5,000 so we can hire staff.
Okay, I'm not sure if are there any rules that has to be used within the fiscal year? No?
We looked at that, and if there is some hot funding, then I'll get into the support.
Then I move to approve.
Second.
Well, that was nice of you, Doc. Okay. Moved by Kay, seconded by Gary. I think everybody's ready to vote.
Councilmember McNally?
Yes.
Councilmember Ship?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delworth?
Yes.
Good luck. Item D10. I was asked we had an opportunity to put 2 more people on the Arts and Public Places Commission, and I was asked by the commission to appoint 2 outstanding members of our wider community and our city, Ms. Joe Albers, that you have just been talking to, and Ann Beck, who we all know very well, and I know you're up late, Ann, I hope you can hear me back there.
I can hear fine.
And I appoint them, and I guess you could ask some questions, but there needs to be a motion for confirmation.
I move that we confirm.
Darn, I wanted to do that. I
Well, let's do
second.
both. You got somebody, who do you want to do? Who do you want to do, Gary?
I'll second.
You'll second it. Okay. We can do them separately, and y'all can each do one.
We're all delighted.
Kay, everybody mows first including Kay, and everybody seconds, including Gary, but you have to go Kay and Gary, I guess, so let me be political on the way I said it. Let's call the roll.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Shedd?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delrose?
Well, thank you, Lily. Thank you, ladies, for your commitment to our community and your continuing work for us, and especially this special commission for our city. Okay, Doc, where am I? 8? D7.
Oh, okay.
D7. Read it again. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on accepting the unaudited monthly financial reports and quarterly investment report for the period ending July 31, 2015. Ms. Walter. Thank you for letting me get you up and down.
You're welcome. You do have in your packet the July 31st, 2015 financial report. And as Lily always says, everything is going great. We're on budget, even under budget. So I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Willie, you got anything you've noticed?
I just like to point out just a few things. Overall, we've used less water this year to date than we have last year. But conversely, our wastewater flows have increased, and we saw a significant increase in our wastewater flows this last month. Looking at that. As I think Tracy has pointed out to you previously, we will not hit budget on the amount of ad valorem taxes collected because of the revised tax roll that we got. And finally, BP&L is going to be tight by going through the end of the year because of some of the projects we had to do that was unexpected, most especially up on top of the hill. We had been previously advised that the electric lines were not a problem, and then at the last moment they told us that it was a problem, and Curtis had to get out there and get things done rather quickly. But other than that, things are pretty much.
Have we had more rain this summer?
We did to begin with.
Maybe we just, well, but that's a very interesting thing and a trend that we've got to watch, right?
Well, it is, and what's more, I think, a little confusing, and I know that Trey and Curtis Hancock are working on it, but when I saw our water usage compared to our wastewater flow, that just kind of, something's out of kilter there. And if we continue to receive the flows like we did in August, the building with additional plants can get moved up rather quickly.
Maybe people from Austin are importing water and putting it into our sewer system.
I don't know, but it's a trend that's got to be watched very closely, as you said.
Mike, there was a big leak on the north part of town last night. I just want to thank the guys that worked late on holiday.
Yes.
Worked late on Wilson and Juniper to repair the leak. Pretty good leak, so.
Yes, sir.
Worked hard on that.
Mike is correct that we will be short on ad valorem just a little bit, but we will exceed our budget in sales tax.
Cool. I don't think we're required to accept this, but I think we usually do.
Yeah, you just acknowledge acceptance.
I to acknowledge acceptance.
You're seconding?
Yeah.
I got a motion from Willie and a second from Kay to accept gratefully this report. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Delrose?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Shedd?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Madam Secretary, have I missed anything?
D8.
Oh, well. See, I always thought I was being smart. Okay. I have missed some. Item D8. Consideration, oh yes, my goodness. Consideration, discussion, review, and possible action regarding the participation of the City of Bastrop in Bastrop County's application to the Housing and Urban Development Department for the National Disaster Resilience Competition Program and authorizing the city manager to take any necessary action on behalf of the city of Bastrop as it relates to Bastrop County's allocation of the National Disaster Reliance Competition Program. Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to try to make this easy. Turn to page 101 of your packet tonight, because that's really the crux of what's being done and undertaken. You'll note when you get to page 101 that they have prioritized 6 activities, or 7, excuse me, that they're going to be applying for. And, for example, on Project 1, Wildfire Mitigation Resiliency Program, the county has asked us to basically do 2 things for each one of these projects. One, how much money have we spent, for example, in wildfire mitigation? Wildfire mitigation. Well, we have spent quite a lot of money in the last 2 years, especially trimming trees and stuff, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and so we're showing them how much we spent and other areas that we feel like that would be benefited by additional wildfire mitigation. Project 2 would be a county facility that would offer these types of activities, and as the judge phrased it, kind of a central place for these agencies to work out of. On Project 3, we discussed that, we see a need for a fire station in west of town. Why do we feel that way, and what have we done in the area of fires and things of this nature? A year or so ago, you made a big expenditure, bought a new fire truck. Rural water supply and fire protection, possibly funding the elevated tank west of State Highway 20 is a big project. Any improvements to floodplain, the new evacuation route, that's connecting 1441 through Excess Ranch and to 969. Public Service and Safety Resource Center, again, what are we doing in that area? Probably the biggest one is their exposition facility, which is project number 2. What we're doing on that is it would probably be built close to or in and around Bastrop, and it would have a significant impact on our infrastructure, such as our wastewater plant, our water, and things of this nature. So we're coming up with the cost that it would take the city to have to handle a facility of that nature. Because we're on a very short time frame, Wesley Brandon, the city engineer, and Trey Job, our director of public works, and I think Melissa, our director of planning, has jumped in. They're putting this together. I think we're going to look at it tomorrow, but we jumped right on it after we had the meeting with the county, and we'll have our information to them by the 12th is when they ask for it.
Go ahead.
So, have they narrowed down to, how do you put those costs together when you don't know what the location of the buildings will be?
We're just doing our best estimate. I mean, we're looking at a general area, and just, doing our best we can to come up with an estimate. For example, it's pretty easy to tell what an elevated tank costs, and we know where we'd have to connect to. That's a pretty easy cost to do. Wastewater plant, pretty easy to do. Fire station, a little bit tougher. The mitigation, wildlife mitigation, we can do wildlife mitigation all over town. We're getting bids for Gills Branch this week. That'll give us some idea of what contractors would charge. We could use that price and multiply
But just to make sure I understand this, this is that, we saw a report, I guess in the paper,
Right.
about all these things they're gonna go for, like bridges and, now, it seems like I saw an email, and I looked now and couldn't find it, from Sean Kirkpatrick, that we need to show some sort of support.
Yes,
You okay?
yeah.
And so is that part of this motion as well?
Yes, I got a letter of support.
So we would be authorizing you to deliver that for the city? So that if there's any question whatsoever from HUD, that they know we're 100% behind it?
Exactly.
Okay, is that all clear? So we need to authorize you to proceed, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I so move.
Second.
Everybody seconds. Let's see, I think it was Doc.
Just just remember, this is a competitive grant, so they're gonna be competing on
Right.
other.
Yeah, it's no guarantee, but we want to back them 100%. So moved by Councilmember Schiff, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Yeah, I heard Doc. My right ear was stopped up. Okay, sorry. So would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember McNally?
Yes.
Councilmember Shea?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delrosa?
Thank you all. And Mike, appreciate your working hard on short notice to get that done, because it's could be a big deal for all of us.
Well, it was real easy. I just said Trey and West, I got it.
Well, that's the way we want it to work. You got some good employees.
I do.
So do we need an executive session?
Yes, we do.
All right, tell me what section.
One and two, let's see. One and two, that's all.
The Bastrop City Council will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551 et sec, to discuss the following: Section 551-0711A and Section 551-0712, consultation with attorney concerning, first, potential pending, threatened, and/or contemplated litigation or claims, including but not limited to water permits and supply, and/or two, matters upon which the attorney has a duty and/or responsibility to report to the governmental body concerning the same, and/or any other matter posted on the agenda, including contracts. A, threat of litigation, criminal trespassing. Item 2, Section 5, deliberation regarding real property, regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, disposition, or value of real property, the lot of 921 Main Street. We're in executive session.